Days into Texas' fourth special session, four of Governor Greg Abbott's priority bills were passed in the state Senate. School choice is one of them. Whether the Republican-controlled House will break the stalemate over school vouchers, well, that remains to be seen.
This is incredibly concerning to us because we only have a certain amount of time to get education freedom for all Texas families. And we are setting a dangerous precedent by breaking quorum as Republicans. How are we going to call out the Democrats when they do the very same thing in order to kill education freedom and our border bill?
The education bill has been held up in the House by Republicans in rural districts. However, conservative members are concerned. House Speaker Dade Phelan is excusing members and encouraging breaking quorum to allow deadlines to expire and the bills to die on the calendar. Late Thursday and early Friday, the Senate passed the proposed school voucher bill, a school finance bill, a border security funding bill, and a fourth bill which creates a state crime for illegal entry from a foreign nation. Republican State Senator Brandon Creighton said they will not give up until they get the largest of the priorities accomplished.
No reason why Texas should be 32nd in the nation to expand school choice and offer these types of options for parents, but we really should be leading on this issue, if any issue.
The bills on the border quickly garnered support, but without a Texas House quorum, the fate of all the bills are uncertain. It's not just Texas parents who want the right to educate their children according to their beliefs. Joining us now is the Deputy General Counsel for First Liberty, Justin Butterfield. Welcome to Victory News.
Thank you for having me.
So the Texas State Senate votes to give parents greater education options through school vouchers, but the Republican-held State House has not gotten behind it so far. That's so confusing. Your perspective on that?
Well, you know, it's something that a lot of states have implemented and implemented well. We've been litigating for parental rights in education in Maine and California, and it's important for religious families to have the readily available options to raise their children according to their faith.
Tell us about the case in California you're leading on behalf of homeschooling parents after their children's public charter school wouldn't approve the faith-based educational resources they chose for independent study.
That's right. So California has an interesting educational choice system where they actually provide opportunities for homeschool students to join public charter schools, and then the parents teach the children. The charter schools provide the funding for the curriculum and make sure that state standards are being met and things like that. The problem is that the charter schools in California are telling these parents that you can choose any curriculum that's right for your family so long as it's not religious. And the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that you can't offer these sorts of educational options. You can't offer these sorts of government benefits and say it's open to everybody so long as you don't use it for something religious. That's religious discrimination, and that's impermissible in this country.
That's interesting. We're going to watch how that turns out. It's not just the West Coast, however. Tell us about the Bangor Christian School case First Liberty has in the state of Maine.
That's right. So in Maine, we actually went to the Supreme Court last year over a very similar issue. Maine provides school tuition assistance for families that live in rural communities where they don't have a public school. And Maine said, you're free to attend any private school and we'll provide tuition assistance for that, so long as you don't attend a religious private school. So again, very similar to the situation in California, the state's providing educational choice funding and saying you can do whatever you want with it so long as you don't do something religious. The Supreme Court struck that down. Maine has come back now, though, and said, well, you can do it as long as you don't hold any of these beliefs that just happen to correspond with the religious beliefs of private Christian schools in the state.
Do state education systems, public education, is it because of funding they don't want parents to have the right a choice in schools? Is that
a lot of these go back to what are called the Blaine Amendments. So back in the 19th century, there was a push to get a constitutional amendment passed called the Blaine Amendment that would deny any funding to what was called sectarian education, which at the time was a code word for Catholic education. After the U.S. constitutional amendment failed, a bunch of states, including Maine and California, enacted their own state versions of these. The Supreme Court struck them down, said that they're unconstitutional. You can't say this opportunity is open to everybody as long as you use your funds for secular purposes and you eliminate religion from your options. That's religious discrimination. Supreme Court's been striking them down, but unfortunately, a lot of states haven't gotten that message or still trying to enforce these Blaine amendments, and the Supreme Court just has to keep knocking them down.
Because you always hear it's the funding, and the moment you take funding, a school takes funding from the government's in control. And then some say, no, it's the unions, and some say it's the teachers themselves. But it's a combination of all of it, it sounds like to me. Your thought?
Yeah, a lot of it is government officials who don't understand what the law says, don't understand that saying you can use this funds for anything other than religious is in fact illegal religious discrimination. So there's aspects of government officials that are uneducated about what the law says. There's aspects of bureaucrats who think, well, my local regulation says this, and I don't care what the Supreme Court says about this issue. I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay. So how can people learn more about First Liberty or get in touch with you if they're facing religious discrimination? You can go to First Liberty, written out, FIRST, liberty.org. You can learn about our cases there. You can follow along about our lawsuit in Maine and California and all of the other religious liberty matters we're working on. Justin Butterfield from First Liberty. First Liberty is definitely looking out for Americans. Thank you, sir, for being with us today.